is the fact that right now, Black America is existing in one of our worst eras in this country since we got here. The way we are being treated, the murders by the police, the third-class citizenship that we're being subjected to, is you would have to go back to the 1960s to find a parallel for the treatment of Black people in America today. And with everyone having a platform of their own that they can utilize at any time and project information into the world, it's disturbing when I go through YouTube or Twitter or TikTok or Instagram and I don't see conversations about the kidnapping of Black women.
Hurt people. Pan-Africanist psychologist Dr. Umar Johnson. Hurt people, right? And in the world of content and creation, people have more access than ever before. People have platforms that they probably would not be able to get on 10, 15, 20 years ago. So just like what Danny said, do you think it comes from a place of hurt? These Black content creators that talk down or talk about their own perspective of the plight of Black America, do you think it comes from a place of hurt?
Particularly with regard to the discourse on male-female relationships in the Black community, without question, it often comes from a place of hurt. From a purely marketing perspective, if I know there are emotionally wounded Black women out there who simply want to hear someone validate their pain and verify their pain and castigate the alleged person responsible for that pain, then the content creator is going to cater to that voice. And it's the same thing with the men. If I was hurt by my wife, hurt by my fiance, hurt by my child's mother, hurt by my girlfriend, I'm looking for someone to validate and verify my pain. And I'm expecting them to also denigrate the person I claim to be responsible for it. And the problem with that analysis is, from a relationship therapy perspective, both parties are responsible for the failure of that relationship. There's never a 100% innocent person and a 100% guilty person in any failed relationship. It doesn't work like that. Both of you had a role to play in the demise of that relationship. But when your ego is scarred, when your ego is bruised, when your ego is hurt, you're not interested in taking responsibility. The ego isn't humble enough to take accountability for the role that it plays. And that's the danger of these content creators, because they play to that one-sided victimization narrative that everybody wants to be parroted, because nobody's interested in taking accountability for their role in the problem at hand. The other item as well with all of this is social media does two things that are dangerous for the Black community. Number one, they give you an uncensored platform for the most part. As long as you obey the community guidelines, your channel will not be taken down. So they give you an uncensored platform, and then they pay you for the amount of views that you get. So you are looking at two of the biggest evils in America and two of the biggest evils in Black America, and that is attention and income. Social media gives you both. Social media satisfies the ego, because people are watching you, they're listening to you, you feel special, you feel important. Keep in mind, a lot of these individuals who are content creators today, they were social outcasts in college, social outcasts in high school. Social media has given them a new life, and their ego is loving it. And they are willing to do anything, including distort the truth or create fires where there are none, in order to remain relevant. So that's the attention side of the equation. And then you have the income side.
Dr. Umar, let's hang tight. Hold on to that thought. Let's put a bookmark in that, because what you're saying, it sounds really good. We got our social media influencers and mental health. Before the break, Dr. Umar Johnson, you were saying some good stuff. We all were shaking our heads in the studio, but we want to continue allowing you to have the space to finish what you were saying before we went to break.
Yes, real quickly. I was saying that social media affords Black people two things that a lot of us don't get enough of, and that is attention and income. And when you apply those two together, when you give someone the opportunity to have their ego validated in a public space, and at the same time pay them for the amount of people who pay attention to them, you're creating a monster. And that's why you see a lot of content creators, they go live all the time, all day long. Social media addiction is a real phenomenon. And I would not be surprised when the next issue of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders is released by the American Psychiatric Association, and we'll probably get a new one in the next 2 or 3 years. I would not be surprised to see social media addiction as an included disability category. The last point I want to make is in reference to journalism and content creation. The reason a content creator is not a journalist is journalism is held to a standard of expectation. When you print something in the newspaper or an online journal and you are a trained journalist, you're going to be held to some of the information published in your article being factually true. You're going to be held to finding resources to substantiate your claims, to substantiate your arguments. Content creators are not held to the same level as journalists. That's why it's called content creation, because the assumption there is that some of the information is in fact fabricated, if not all the information being in fact fabricated. And to me, it's a disservice, because when I go back to the first newspaper created in this country by Pan-Africanists, John Brown Russwurm and Samuel Cornish, Freedom's Journal out of New York, it was to educate and it was to advocate. It was not to denigrate, marginalize, or expand the negative energy that exists in the community. I definitely think the Black community needs to move toward some standards of principle and some points of solidarity that all content creators are expected to adhere to.
404-726-1380. I'm going to allow DJ Miss Eclectic and G Wade of the G Wade podcast to ask you guys some questions, or just to follow up on what both you, Dr. Umar Johnson, and Danny Parks mentioned before we went into our last break. So, G Wade, DJ Miss Eclectic.
Oh, sure. First of all, it's an honor to be on the line with you, Dr. Umar Johnson and Danny. Hey, my girl. Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely agree with what both of you said. It's coming from hurt. But I'm also going to think from a viewer standpoint, are we looking at social media the wrong way? It's entertainment is what it really is, but are we using it are we looking at it as we're going to therapy? Are we using it for psychological advancement? How are we using social media as viewers? When they say they're, like you said, they're content creators, they are not licensed, they are not credentialed. It's not like when I go to therapy and I sit on somebody's couch and I get actual therapy from that relationship where I had an ego, for where I didn't want to take responsibility for my actions and I leave healed. When you're watching something on social media, for me, you're watching it as purely entertainment. So should we put on that entertainment lens, or are we actually watching it to actually thinking that we're going to get healed by self-proclaimed people who are on social media?
You raise a good point there, Queen. And just quickly to respond, I would agree with you, except for the fact people are significantly influenced by social media. The polls show it. The research shows it. In fact, if people approach social media purely from an entertainment standpoint, I think the community would be better off. The truth of the matter is social media masquerades as reality, and in that lies the threat.
Absolutely. I think it's a crossfire, right? We don't know what we get crossed. We like, well, I think it's entertainment, but he said it. He was confident about it. So I know he's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on DJ Mr. Eclectic, you said therapist, right? And that's what it seems like nowadays, where content creators, and I've already mentioned the names earlier in the broadcast of who some of there are that G Wade said earlier that we're polarizing, people that we are accustomed to hearing and that we're knowing. But the average person look at them as almost like therapists, they're licensed therapists, and they're not really trained or licensed to be therapists to give out what they feel like is advice or valid information, but really it's just their own opinion. And like Dr. Umar Johnson said earlier, it comes from a place of hurt, comes from a place from experience. So, G Wade?
Well, I have a question, Dr. Umar. This is G Wade from G Wade Podcast. Certainly honor meeting you, and hello to Miss Danny Parks.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. So do you think who's at fault here? Is it the media outlets for paying the social content creators for, just spewing whatever their in a sense, unsolicited facts, untruths? Is it the social media outlets at fault for paying for the ego, for the dopamine hits?
I operate from the premise that you can never blame a capitalist for practicing capitalism. It's the same argument when people say, who's responsible for gangster rap? The European music industry or the actual gangster rapper? How can you blame the industry? Because that's a capitalist practicing capitalism. At the end of the day, the Black community has to take responsibility and accountability for the ills in our community. And what bothers me the most about social media content creators is the fact that right now, Black America is existing in one of our worst eras in this country since we got here. The way we are being treated, the murders by the police, the third-class citizenship that we're being subjected to, is you would have to go back to the 1960s to find a parallel for the treatment of Black people in America today. And with everyone having a platform of their own that they can utilize at any time and project information into the world, it's disturbing when I go through YouTube or Twitter or TikTok or Instagram, and I don't see conversations about the kidnapping of Black women. I don't see conversations about the mass incarceration of Black males. I don't see conversations about the food deserts, which a lot of our Black communities have become, or the hospital deserts that a lot of our Black communities have become. There is no law for the amount of critical stories that could be taking place on social media, but rather than grapple with the issues that are really affecting us as a race in this country, content creators are focusing on gossip, celebrity news, sports, slander, gender wars. Everything but the important things have become the topics of choice on social media.